Hey there, friends and farmers. Welcome to another episode of the YouTube with me, John Suscovich, your farm friend. Now, I published a video on Tuesday. It's been a couple days, and I've let some comments flow in, and I can't always get back to them in writing. And then if you write the wrong thing, you look like a jerk. There's a little bit more leeway with video and podcasting. So what I'm going to do is go through the comments now. I'm going to read some of them off. I'm going to answer them here on this video. We're developing here at Farm Marketing Solutions a new strategy where I publish a video on Tuesday, and by the end of the week, I take whatever comments got in that week, I read them off, I give people head nods, and hopefully answer some of your questions so that life will be a little bit better for you, and you get a little more depth out of the FMS experience here. So, I apologize for the title of this video. After you get chicks, watch this! But we're going to dive right into your questions and comments in the comment section of the YouTube video right now. All right, so we're going down to the latest comments. We're going to view all our comments. Whether I responded or not, we're going to slide on down to where the first ones came in a couple days ago. Ladies Farm, 3 days ago, just gave me a bunch of emojis. Thanks for the comment. Steven Liberatore is on his way to get chicks at the post office right now, and it's fun when I release a piece of content. It's timely and relevant, and there's a community that has been built around this YouTube channel that I know and love, and it's working a little bit. Troy Bishop, the grass whisperer, the inventor of linger grazing, said optimize for happiness. Yes, because if you watch that video, you know you got to optimize for some happiness. Carmen wants to know if I'm going to talk about my feed mix. Yes, I'm going to have some episodes on feed specifically. I've actually been rereading some of my old feed books. I've purchased a few new feed books. I've been reviewing my chicken anatomy. Feed is an area where I really want to dive deep. If you think about aside from buying the chick, it's the most expensive input that you have for your bird because they can't survive just on pasture. They have to have something to eat. And a balanced ration and a good quality ration is just first and foremost what you should be providing to your birds. Susan Robertson, love your videos. We'll be butchering roosters in June. First time to butcher for us. If it's your first time, Susan, I recommend giving yourself more time than you think. Allow for things to go wrong. Make sure that your scalder can get up to temperature. You have extra gas if you're doing like the turkey plucker method. However you're heating the water, make sure that you have plenty of ability to heat water. Scalder is one of those things that you can really wait on. If you have a plucker and you kind of can eviscerate, watch a lot of videos on evisceration, and maybe split it up into 2 days where you have a few birds day one and you do the rest of the flock on day two, and just plan accordingly. Have extra hands. Have somebody make lunch, have a place where you can wash your hands so that you can pick your nose or eat something or have a drink of water. Have a covered area if the weather's going to be bad, and have a backup plan. So I've read a bunch of these comments ahead of time, tried to prep, but also I'm limited time, so I didn't read them all. Michael Thornburn has an interesting problem where he is raising 3 grade 7 classes. Now, he's not raising 3 grade 7 classes. He's raising chickens with 3 7th grader classrooms. And it just snowed. They're in Manitoba, Canada. And they don't know if and when and how to get the birds out. And I might make one of my next videos just for Michael. I have to respond to him in text because he feels like he's really in a bind here. But doesn't know when to get his birds out and if he will ever be able to get them out because they were ready and it snowed. So yes, you're going to want for no snow on the ground for the chickens because they're especially if they're Cornish cross, they don't have a lot of weather protection. They'll grow out some feathers and it will take you a little longer to grow them out. But sitting in snow is not such a good idea. Also, having them sit in super saturated, wet, soggy pasture is also not a good thing because broilers don't tend to roost. So you want them to be able to get off that ground. And what I've done in the past with wet ground or unseasonable weather is close off the chicken tractor more. If you have an extra tarp, Make sure your tarps go all the way to the ground on the sides, and then put one on either the front or the back, wherever your predominant wind comes from. Give those birds plenty of places to get out of inclement weather, bad weather. Give them plenty of food and water, and make sure that the water is not freezing. They're going to metabolize that feed, and you're going to have a higher feed bill because they're using the feed to stay warm. If you keep them inside, you want to expand the space that they have to use, and you want to stay on top of managing the bedding so it doesn't get too wet, too gross. And if you smell ammonia, it's too late. They're already getting ammonia burns in their lungs. You want to stay on top of that bedding, keep it dry, because birds can perceive and are susceptible to the negative effects of ammonia, which is in their manure, at a much lower level than humans can even detect it. So give them plenty of space inside if you've got it. You don't have to worry about bunching as much in the corners inside once they're a little bit bigger. If there's no drafts and if people aren't spooking them, then just worry about more space. Don't worry about everything being rounded and perfect and what have you. But the same principles that I talked about in this video, you want to make sure the birds have plenty of food and water. You want to have fresh air, good bedding, a good environment, and a decent temperature. Birds can be out. Like I've had birds out, and I didn't get deep snow, but I've had flurries or light snow. They feather out, they metabolize. If you think of what a down comforter is, a chicken is covered in a down comforter, it's down. And when they metabolize their feed, they're going to maintain the air underneath their feathers and stay warmer, but they're going to eat more just to stay warm. So it's very case specific. I'll get back to you, Michael, and we're going to go on to the rest of the comments. All I want to do is spend the rest of my day trying to help out this person, but there's only so many hours. The Naked Gardeners. Your tractor makes it easy for pasture poultry raising, easier to process the chicken once it is time to send them off for freezer camp. I'm glad that you guys find my chicken tractor designed to be very useful and helpful. And what I like to say on my farm tours is that every animal on the farm only has one bad day. Other than that, they live pretty good lives. Creekside Acre, so that we can, or quoting me, so that we can kill them and eat them. That, my friend, is what you call straight to the point. Yes, there's a certain humor in all of this. I don't enjoy processing animals. I can appreciate the process of it. I don't enjoy taking a life. And I found with livestock farmers, there's a certain amount of levity and joking because you have to make something that is very serious, can be very personal, something that you can share with other people, something that you can discuss. And at the end of the day, I am teaching you how to raise something, a sentient being that is aware of its surroundings so that you can kill it and eat it. And it feeds us. They have different brains. They perceive the world in a different way. And there's a whole conversation there. But yes, straight to the point. I try not to BS you, even though I can get a little long in the tooth. Alan Key threw me some compliments. So Alan, thank you for the compliments. I'm not going to sit here and pat myself on the back, but I find typically that our YouTube audience, you guys, very nice, very supportive. Michael got a bunch of replies from other people trying to help him out, giving him some advice. I can't always reply to everything, so that it's nice that we're all here to support each other. Jacqueline Wheeler. I put a sprinkling of fresh shavings on top of their bed once a day. When I do this, the birds run and flap all over the place. There is a way to add new bedding that doesn't stress them out. Yes, there is. Think about it, what the bird's environment is and what their day-to-day is when they're in the brooder, when they're in the field. If you only have the short amount of time to go in, see them, change everything, feed, water, and go, they're like, just walking along, doing my best, being a chicken, living in the brooder. And then all of a sudden a giant, if they're this big and you're this big, you're a giant person and you're just shaking things up. You're putting stuff, they don't know, things are sprinkling from the heavens and their food is gone all of a sudden. And then one bird freaks out and it all spreads through the flock and they're all going to freak out. When you're working with livestock, if you can spend any more time with them to get them used to you, and then move slowly and confidently, you want to tell whatever animal it is, chickens or otherwise, tell the chickens that everything is going to be okay with your body language. If you're tense, you're going to carry that in. They don't have spoken language. they're going to go off your body language. I use this when I'm training my dog, who's sleeping on the floor right there. They're gonna, if you're tense, they're gonna be tense. You want to be relaxed. If you are sprinkling shavings on, take your thing of shavings to sprinkle down, and then go and bend down or squat down so it's not so bad on your back, and either dump the shavings out and spread them so you're not sprinkling from the from the heavens, and get down closer to the birds. Work with them a little bit more. At the end of the day, when you're doing that, you're changing up their environment. My birds still freak out too. I haven't spent as much time with this batch, especially as I wanted to, but here we are. They're going to stress out a little bit. They're not going to be too overly stressed. You want to get them used to that, that action, your presence, and what you're doing there. And just over time, they'll get more used to it. You'll get better as a poultry manager. And yeah, it just, sometimes they freak out, and that's all you can do. Is put shavings down a little lower, be calm, work slow, be deliberate, keep your eyes open. If they're starting to freak out, just pause and wait for a minute, because then they're going to stop, and they're going to look, and they're going to start to move around and be like, this person's not that bad. And you're like, I'm just standing here. Why am I just standing here? Because you're watching your birds, and you might notice something that's a problem. You might notice it's something awesome, and you're like, pull out your phone nice and slowly and snap some pictures and then use them for marketing. The timing of this video could not be better. This is the Allen Shire. My first batch of the season will be here next Wednesday, and I'm getting brooder space ready for them today and tomorrow. Boom. Thanks for the tips and reminders. You know, I appreciate such positivity. Earaches, elbows, and Enoch. Biochar added to the bedding will help with ammonia, and then add the compost for a microbe-rich compost. Yes, all my brooder bedding I add into my compost pile, because you have the highly nitrogenous and nitrogen-rich manure mixing with the carbon-rich source of the bedding. You could use biochar, you could not. To help with the ammonia spell, I'm sure it helps having that carbon source. Any carbon source is going to be some sort of carbon sink for that nitrogen to latch onto. The big thing with ammonia, keeping the bedding dry and fluffy, getting rid of any wet areas if water spills, or if the birds are tossing water around a lot, or you got a nipple drinker that is leaking, getting the wet bedding out of there, and moving your feeders and waters around so you don't always have manure build up around the feeders. And if you do, getting that stuff out of there, have a wheelbarrow outside or somewhere where you can dispose of it, bring it to your compost pile. Doesn't have to be too much more complicated than that. All right, BCH with Maria. Hi, Maria. She was asking, she put some paragraphs in there, so I'm not going to hit all of it. One of the questions, will chicks eat small acorns? Chicks will eat small seeds and nuts. When they're baby chicks, they don't have, you think about trying to swallow an acorn, it's like me trying to swallow a softball. It would just be huge for me. And the tougher the thing is, the harder it is for them to digest it. And if they're not at an age, I start feeding grit about a week and a half after I get the birds. In the beginning, I just start them on a mash feed. Don't give them much for outside. I might give them a shovel full of dirt with some grass in it, because that dirt will have tiny rocks. And then I give chick grit starting at that week and a half-ish mark. Honestly, it depends on when I remember to do it. So because somebody else asked about when do you feed them and introduce green matter, because Christy Sue, I think, is the next comment. I add in grit early, and I feed grit throughout when I'm in the fields. The 4 to 5 pound chicken in 8 weeks is actually, you can far surpass that number if you're feeding grit. If you add grit into their diet, like I have done, I get a 4 pound bird in 6.5 weeks, and then I'm getting bigger birds, 5, 5.5, 6 pounds by 7 weeks. When I go to 8 weeks, they get ridiculous, where I have 7 pound dressed out bird. It's like a turkey. So if you're doing it $6 a pound, it's a hard sell for somebody that's a little bit older bird, bigger muscle mass. The muscle might be a little tougher, and it's just gigantic. So small acorns, you would have to crush them up into little pieces so that the birds can get the little pieces into their mouth and break them down in their gizzard. If you think about feeding a baby a large, hearty thing, it's just not going to be the best for the birds. She also had questions about compost. We can go into composting a little bit later. I've been doing a lot of research with my friend David and Larissa. And for now, just add it into your compost pile. And composting is something way out of the scope of this video because I have a feeling this video is going to go a little long. Barefoot Backyard, your videos are always amazing. You know what? You're amazing. Thank you so much for the compliment. I can't believe your oldest is 8 already. I know. Mabel's 8, Rose is 2, turning 9 and 3 this summer. Wild. Backwoods Basics. After 20 years of raising pasture chickens, a bear finally got us last season. Oh, my nightmare, right? I've had bears like walk across my front yard, black bear, Connecticut, and I've had them walk across the farm. And it's just like, you can have electric netting, you can have electric fencing, and if a bear really wants to get in it, a bear is really going to get in it, and you can put up more poultry netting, you can make sure it's really, really hot, check your fences, build your fences and defenses, and Backwoods Basics has got, what they're kind of adjusting their system to be a little bit more bear proof here. Ooh, Paul G. Hey John, not sure if in your area, but the avian flu has hit nearby us. Our pasture plans are on hold, sadly. Just curious if you have any tips for a chicken noob on how to navigate the situation. Yes, the Pasture Poultry podcast with Mike Badger, he interviewed like the lead APHIS avian influenza person. It's a poultry scientist doctor whose name I'm going to forget, and I apologize, no disrespect. But great episode, and it was also published in the APA Grit for those of you who are APA members. And you're going to find out you have avian influenza because all your birds will die. It's the number one symptom is everybody dies. And so tips for dealing with it, if you're small enough, consider skipping, and it's in your area, consider skipping a season or a year, or waiting till a high path AI dies down in your area and is gone. You don't want to be a vector. You also don't want to go through all the effort of raising birds only to have them all die. It's not the best option. We don't live in the best world. Sometimes you got to make hard decisions. That's going to be up to you and the risk factors in your area, but we are raising pasture poultry who go outside, who are going to cross paths with wild birds and wild fowl. And it's just a risk. So it's a managed risk. You can either go ahead with it and do your best for biosecurity, but at the end of the day, I have birds land on top of my chicken tractors and take a dump on my chicken tractors, and your birds just might get sick. What age would you provide green food to chicks? This is the other comment that I was talking about. So, they said, I have read that it is not recommended while they are under about 8 weeks. I raise meat birds to 7 weeks old, and then I process. I give them greenery after the first week. So that first week, I have them in the brooder. I'm giving them the chick mash. I'm making sure their water isn't super cold. I'm making sure everything is warm and comfortable and wonderful. If it's in the middle of summer, I might add in some dirt and greenery sooner. In the winter, I give them a little extra time just to have their manufactured diet for the manufactured bird to get them off to a solid footing going forward. And then once I feed greenery in the brooder, which is maybe about a week in, I will also feed grit at the same time if I haven't already, because they're starting to break off more fibrous, tough vegetative matter versus a poultry ration that has been engineered for them, and they need to grind that up. So you're going to want to add not only the greenery, but the grit as well. Kid Family Farm LLC, love your content, John. Love you too, buddy. And then it looks like the last one for now. Hey, John, Andy Robinson here. Ooh, I have a question about water and water sanitization. This is a good one to go out on. He talks about getting hydrogen peroxide into the water to keep biofilms from growing. You could do that. It's another thing you have to purchase, manage. It's going to be in the water that your birds drink. It's just another input. To reduce biofilms, when I am giving my birds water, especially in the summer, I will rip off a handful of grass and then use that grass as my Brillo scrubby brush and just run through my water real quick, dump it out, rinse it out, and then put fresh water in it. And that keeps the biofilms at bay. That Brillo pad of just a handful of grass is super cheap. People have put vinegar in water. I've seen people put strips of copper in the water, although I don't know that that works really well to try to keep biofilms and algae from building up. Hydrogen peroxide is a thing, but I don't want to talk to the science because I haven't researched it to back up my claims, and I don't have a fact checker for farm marketing solutions. So I'm going to say what I do is in the summer to reduce stress, I will put some apple cider vinegar in, but more for the birds and less for the biofilms. And then for the biofilms, I just clean the buckets on a regular basis. And if you stay on top of it and you build it into the routine, it happens quickly and you don't have to make a big project out of cleaning and sanitizing it. If you let it build up and get really bad, you're going to be there scrubbing and sanitizing. You might want soap. You might going to have to clean it really well. And it becomes then a project. So staying on top of it is a good way to deal with it. So thank you all for your comments. I'm going to try to do this going forward where I publish that video on Tuesday. Paul and I are going to edit this, see how long it is, and take a look. We'll post it on the YouTubes, and if you guys love it, we'll do some more. And then we'll have 50 comments, and it'll take me 4 hours to read all of it because I can't say anything slowly. I say it really fast, but I use a lot of words. We'll put it that way. Anyways, I love you guys. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. If I didn't mention you were on here, I'm sorry, whatever the technology, but I do read and appreciate almost every comment that comes in on the YouTube video or the YouTube channel. I just can't always respond. So this is my best effort. I'm going to shut up now. Till next time, I'll see you out in the field. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, we're done.